To start off our look at some of the malls South Dakota has to offer, we start small with the Watertown Mall. A relatively standard fare of late 70s that's slumped quite a bit, but still continues on as more of a classic dead mall. It's been a while since I've seen a classic. Now, one thing with these smaller town malls is that a lot of information about them just gets lost, and the information that is available is spotty and difficult to gather up. Newspapers are all over the place, and if you use the wrong terms, search engines will just spin in circles or go to a different part of the country. But I was able to find something at least. In 1977, it was confirmed that the Watertown Mall would be built and a moratorium enacted to halt commercial construction outside of downtown Watertown would be rejected, leading to the eventual construction and opening of the Watertown Mall in 1978, with JCPenney, Herberger's, and Kmart as primary anchors. A blip in the papers about a theft would crop up shortly after the mall's opening, simply being a report of local police arresting 4 adults and a girl due to shoplifting spree of roughly $700 in stolen goods, the merchandise being taken between the Watertown Mall and downtown Watertown. Although not the best thing to hear, this seems to be an incident that stands out rather than being business as usual, as Watertown, and most of South Dakota for that matter, are rather quiet and actually kinda safe. A more humorous incident would happen around May 1998 when 2 deer attempted to break into Kmart, bashing against the glass doors. While one could make jokes about those blue light specials being a hot commodity, police speculate that the deer saw their reflections in the glass and challenged themselves to attack. Now, South Dakota in general, for those of you that don't live here, it is a large state that consists of mostly plains, farmland, scenic parks, and native reservations. There are only a couple towns in South Dakota that you could realistically call a city, while everything else ranges from small towns to roadside hamlets. Watertown is one of the few towns you could call mid-sized to big. Additionally, it is far enough away from places like Huron, Aberdeen, and even Brookings, which had their own malls at one point in time. In fact, Sioux Falls was considered the bigger competition for Watertown Mall. It is hard to parse exactly what went on in the mall's life, as newspaper coverage is spotty at best. But it had to have been doing alright for small town mall standards, as the anchors remained in place for a very long time. Additionally, the mall was no stranger to community events and shows to bring people in, with tournaments being held well into the 2000s. However, on April 30th, 2002, a fire would break out in the mall, forcing everyone to close for the day when an unknown malfunction occurred with the security system at the mall. From what I gather in the short summary of the paper, the fire was quickly contained, and this only ceased operations for a few days at the very worst due to smoke damage. While the anchors did last quite a while, the 2000s would see that change. At the start of January 1st, 2002, Kmart would close its doors for the last time, an early casualty in the world's slowest liquidation sale, and a closure fresh off the original bankruptcy of the company. Meanwhile, JCPenney would close its doors in 2017 and then Herberger's in 2018. It wasn't entirely bad news, however, as Dunham Sports would come in sometime around the early 2010s. The specific date I was unable to find. Additionally, a thrift store named Angel's Attic has opened in the old Herberger's. While the old JCPenney would remain vacant as of the making of this video, part of the mall would have been cannibalized to make way for Harbor Freight Tools. Additionally, Planet Fitness has set up shop in one of the old stores. Again, the specific date I was unable to find. I'm just a guy with a newspaper subscription. Now, ownership is a bit muddy. Developers Diversified seem to own the mall the longest, possibly even developing this mall before selling it off at the end of 2010 to a company called GJ Realty, whom would proceed to hire Lexington Realty International to handle management and leasing. And best I can tell, Lexington is the only name visibly attached to this mall. The mall has certainly seen better days in terms of occupancy, but it does at least remain clean and orderly. A handful of chain stores remain, with smaller businesses scattered around. And while there is only one place to eat in the mall, Senor Max's, it is reported to be a great spot for some non-authentic Mexican food. While the Watertown Mall's future remains obscure, it does still have its place here in this South Dakota town. If you're coming through the area, why not stop in? This is a rather standard mall in terms of overall aesthetics. Nothing terrible, although I can't really give it much more than a C. Now, while the corridors are rather bare, I am a fan of neat or otherwise interesting store facades, and while some are plain, you can see where quite a bit of wood grain was used for various store facades. And I am a bit disappointed at that wall cutting straight into the mall. You can see it, right? There were probably some more interesting spaces that were cut away for Harbor Freight. But at the end of the day, something does have to be done to fill those spaces back in, even if it means gutting it for something else. I'm not used to seeing a closed Maurice's either. Usually they're among some of the last to leave a mall. Watertown itself looks like a decent place, if a little quiet. Though one thing I have noticed is that with the closure of some malls throughout the state, South Dakota actually has fewer malls total than North Dakota. And the only true live malls to speak of in this state are the Uptown Rapid on the other side of the state and the West Empire Mall in Sioux Falls. And West Empire Mall is the only other mall I've been to out this way. I do want to come back though. And while talking about the rest of South Dakota, is there anyone out in Yankton? What's up with your local mall? 'Cause I looked that one up and heard it closed, but recently I've been hearing a new company is trying to reopen it. Until next time, South Dakota, this is Doomy Grunt wishing you and the Watertown Mall in South Dakota farewell and good luck in the future.